There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our 15th. I hope I've got that count right. I should go back and double check. Our 15th webinar on the VATI 2021 project. Somebody reminded me as I was sending out these updates, they said, you got the date wrong. And I was like, what? She was like, it's not the VATI 21 project. And I was like, no, it is the VATI 21 project. It's been going on a little while. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to get started. And today we've got, once again, Rich Schulman from Brightspeed and Nancy Devaney from Brightspeed, as well as my director, Mike Culp, and myself, Jason Nino Fuentes from the Broadband Accessibility and Affordability Office. And we might have a couple of people from DHCD drop in to watch the proceedings, but our agenda for today is going to look a lot like last week or last month's, which was just a few weeks ago. And that's going to be sort of discussing what this project is, discussing everybody's role, including DHCD's role, the pending completion of the project, which is coming up, and then an update on the project areas, and then once again the presentation on the ordering and installation processes. We want to make sure that everybody's got those down, and then an opportunity for question and answer. As always, the question and answer part is the most important. It is where we get the information that we need to know where we need to go next in terms of answering questions and adjusting the presentation. So if you have any questions, if you just wave your mouse around, you're going to see a little box pop up, and you can click Q&A, and people can put in answers now. We're going to wait until the Q&A time, and have those answers for you all. And if you see, if you're looking and you notice that sometimes the questions disappear, click over to that answered section. Sometimes whenever possible, especially with Rich on the line, we'll have some of those questions that are easy to answer. We'll just go ahead and answer them via text. And so if you saw a question, you thought you were excited to hear the answer, and then it goes away, click over on answered and you'll probably find it there. But anytime you've got a question, just pop it into the Q&A. And what are we talking about? So the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative is
put the slides up if you're going to. Yeah, just a little reminder.
They're up.
Oh, they are? Oh, okay, it's just me.
Double click on your screen to minimize that part. Yep.
Okay.
So the Virginia Telecommunications Initiative is a program by the Department of Housing and Community Development's Broadband Office. It was developed in 2017, and Albemarle County has actually received an award on it every year that it's been available. This was, at the time, our largest project, 1,600 passings. We'll talk about that again in a second. And the way that it's structured is that the state either has state or federal funding, and they ask the county to go find a private partner, and to partner with them and to bring some county funds and some private funds into the project. In our case, at the time of this project, our office didn't actually exist, and it was the Albemarle Broadband Authority that put out an RFP based on the guidelines that DHCD had put out, got a number of responses, worked with their partners to determine the right response. And with that, we had the VATI 21 project. This project commits $2.3 million of state funding towards this partnership with Brightspeed. Brightspeed's bringing some private funding. The county's bringing about $600,000 to the project. And it is really a project that touches almost every corner of the county. Up north, out west, out east, not a whole lot down south, but a little bit. But it's 10 different project areas, 1,600 passings. Those of you that are on the call are most likely in the Taylor's Gap area, or Stony Point, or Keswick. Those are the remaining project areas. And actually, the Taylor's Gap project is now fully launched. So if you haven't received an email from me, but you're still somehow getting onto this webinar and you live over by Taylor's Gap off of Dick Woods Road, go put your order in. We sent that email last week. You're ready to go.
And tell your neighbors too.
And tell your neighbors.
It's
absolutely
important to communicate out in your individual neighborhoods that this project's going on. So we just need your help with that, letting everyone around you know that there's construction work coming and proceeding, so forth and so on. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah. And so we talked about ABBA, we talked about DHCD, we talked about what Brightspeed doing. What are we doing? We are the Broadband Accessibility and Affordability Office. Our mission is right there in the name. It's to improve accessibility and affordability for broadband services in Albemarle County. We serve as the administrators for the Albemarle Broadband Authority, the chief administrative officers for the Albemarle Broadband Authority. And in this project, we're the project administrator. So we're in charge of making sure day to day that DHCD has all the information they need, that Brightspeed is getting the work done, and that we are reporting to all of the relevant entities. But the most important aspect of it is being the public liaison, working with residents during the project to get them the information they need, and then working with those residents still to make sure that Brightspeed has all the information they need to do this project effectively. And so that's where your questions and concerns are really, really important to the work that we're doing. And that means that, as always, and this is going to be that time, I'm going to say it at least 20 times today, BAAO@albemarle.org. If you have any questions that don't get answered during this webinar, or that you haven't found an answer for it yet, feel free to reach out to us. And that's going to be true forever. As long as our office exists, if you have a broadband issue, feel free to reach out to us. A telecommunications issue, reach out to us at that email address, baao@albemarle.org. And that last bullet there, just point out, we're not just an intermediary. We're not just taking your email and handing it over to Rich. There are going to be times when we can provide you the answer. There are going to be times when we can go ahead and intervene on our end, and opportunities for us to engage with the community to find out exactly what the right solution is going to be, and bring Rich and his team on to make sure that we've got that right solution. The completion of the project is coming up, and that's going to be true on a couple of different fronts. So this grant was extended. It was originally supposed to close in December of 2022, and we talked last time about some of the delays that resulted in this project needing to have an extension. And so we got that extension in October, and that extension was to plan to end in March 31st of 2023. So all construction operations have to end March of 2023. And what is construction operations? If you're in the Stony Point area, if you're in the Keswick area, and a little bit if you're in the Taylor's Gap area, that's the work that you've been watching happen right now. The work that's down at the street level that sometimes has to come up a little bit onto your driveway or onto the easement right there, the VDOT right of way right next to your house. All of that's the work that's been going on right now. That's construction work. That is putting out all of the infrastructure that's then going to be used to connect your individual homes. And the reason I want to emphasize that distinction is that installations aren't going to stop. It's just the same way as when other providers move into a neighborhood. It's not like after a certain window closes, installations stop. They're going to be available to install new customers here on out. They are a fiber broadband service provider in your area for whenever you want them, whenever you need them. So if you're worried, oh, I got to get my installation in before March 31st, don't worry about it. Obviously, if you're eager, you want to get your order in as soon as possible. We'll talk about how that's going to work in just a minute. But I want people to not be concerned that if your temp line's not buried, if your order's not in, if you haven't gotten the email that you were waiting for by March 31st, that's not a problem. March 31st is when construction has to end. And that's a grant that deadline. And so that money that we were talking about, the $2.3 million from the state and the $600,000 from the county, that's just the money that's going to the construction phase. The installation phase will continue until the installation phase is until everybody that's ordered service has received their service, and then it'll keep going when more people want to order service. So don't worry about that date in terms of your installation. And we'll get an update from Rich in just a little bit about their confidence and our confidence that we're going to be there. Now, with the end of the construction phase, that's actually technically the end of the grant. And so with that, to a certain extent, it changes our role when it comes to these issues. So the big announcement for today is that next month's webinar will be the final webinar that we're going to host of this type for this project. we have been working to refine this this presentation so that you guys have, and everybody that's going to be ordering service, and anybody that doesn't know about this project yet but is about to find out, because there's about 900 people that are still left to be connected. You're going to find out about this, about the ordering and installation process, and we want to make sure that there's a record, there's a video available, so that whenever anybody else wants to learn about the installation and ordering process, they're going to have a resource. We're going to start shifting our website to focus entirely on that installation and ordering process, and we're not going to do the webinar anymore. The key part of the webinar that people wanted to know is when. Well, it'll be by March 31st. March 31st is the end of construction, and so that's the when. And after March 31st, there's not going to be any more when. So the final VATI webinar for this project is going to be March 3rd of 2023. We will plan kind of a wrap-up webinar, an opportunity for community members to share their experience with us, how we've done. And so you can expect an invitation to that at a later date. But that one's really not going to be informative for you all. It's going to be informative for us. And so look forward to that. But March 3rd, the last webinar, March 31st, the end of the project. And I want to remind you all, that doesn't mean that we're done helping people resolve their issues. Our office will continue to be around. You can still email us, baao@albemarle.org. But in terms of the webinars, the resources that you need, you'll always be able to find them on the website, and we will make sure that everybody's got a link to the website. We'll email that out again, and that'll give you all that you need to understand the installation and ordering process. And anytime that there are any issues, you can always reach out to us. So with that, we can move on to the update on the project areas, and that update is construction operations are going in the remaining project areas. There are going to be some areas in the Taylor's Gap project area that are still going through some of that restoration work. There was a lot of tough work to get that Murray Lane tranche finished up. And so that work is, as the actual work on the ground to get people connected, it's done. And so installations are happening. But to restore the road, restore the side of the road, and make sure that all of that is done completely, that's going to be ongoing for a little bit. But what you guys are going to be seeing in Stony Point and in Campbell and Cobham is, and you've probably mostly already seen it, crews out by the road, putting conduit in the ground and then running fiber through that conduit, and then installing these boxes periodically. Those are going to be the fiber facilities that are going to serve your homes. Sometimes they're underground, sometimes they're overground, sometimes the only thing that you end up seeing is these little orange sticks. And before you ask, yes, they have to be there. They can't be painted. But if you want to put a shrubbery around them, you can put a shrubbery around them. But that's what's happening now. And it's happening in all of the remaining project areas. Murray Lane, as we said, has launched. The construction for Stony Point, they've made a lot of progress on getting that trunk line that we talked about last month. So it's the line that's actually going to feed all of this with bandwidth. They made a lot of progress getting it. You might have seen, if you live there, some crews over at that traffic circle on Profit. That's the work that they're doing to get that trunk line out there to distribute internet across the whole project area. And that's also going to feed the Campbell and Cobham project areas. And so you guys have seen that work. That's going to continue. I'm going to throw it over to you, Rich, in just a second, to talk about our confidence in being on time here. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, once those construction operations are done, you're going to see some crews still out there doing little stuff. And what they're doing is they're testing all of that equipment. Before they can light up any of those areas, they are testing to make sure that all of those areas are working. And I see your question, Miss Davis. And so that bringing that equipment over from Polo Grounds, that's part of the testing process, is that they need to get it all connected. And once it's connected, that's when they can light it up. Now, that's still part of the construction process. So that's going to be completed by March 31st, verifying that all of that stuff is working. If anything's not working, they have to replace it. They might have to pull a piece of fiber out of the ground. They might have to pull a piece of equipment out of the ground. That's all the stuff that's happening to get construction completed. Once that construction and the testing that goes along with that construction, that's done, you'll get an email from us, and that'll let you know when you can start placing orders. We do have those tranches broken down, and some people asked earlier about the lists, the street lists. We have those lists. We're trying to come up with a reliable way to distribute those. What we'll likely do is we're going to host them on our server. We don't want it publicly facing. We never feel really good about just having a list of streets just out there. And so we're going to have it on our server. And the link is something that we'll email out to everybody that's in the Stony Point area. And that way you can check which tranche you're going to be. The tranches, the way that they're broken down, it's pretty straightforward. Eastham is basically Eastham Road and all of the community south of there. That'll bring you just about to Pantops. So across from Key West and up north up to Eastham, you're in the Eastham tranche. The Stony Point school is, it was just the Stony Point tranche. We went ahead and tagged it the school tranche because if you're north of Eastham and all the way up to the school, then you're probably in the Stony Point school. And then Bell's store, now the Stony Point market, that's from basically the school north all the way to the county line. So that's how the tranches break down if you're curious which tranche you're going to be in. But we will send out a link to each of to the street list, so that way you can just take a look. The other thing that we want to make sure of is that there are street numbers. So obviously, if you live on Stony Point Road, if you have a Stony Point Road address, doesn't help to know that Stony Point Road's in that tranche, because of course it is. We want to make sure that we've got the right street numbers for which houses are going to be in those tranches. So we will be distributing that soon. Don't worry about that. But like I said, construction is going on in this entire in the remaining project areas. And Rich, if you would, before we move into the discussion on ordering and installation, do you want to share where we are in completion and how confident you are about getting it all the way by March 31st? Oh,
let me unmute first before I start talking. Sure. Just to give you just to intro myself and I'll do this quickly. I looking at the participants, I see a lot of names that I've either spoken to or been on the calls before, but I think there's some new folks on there. So I came on board in October. I'd been retired for a couple of years, but I actually had worked for CenturyLink and Embark before that. Had the kind of the Northeast region of 12 states. And in October, Brightspeed, when they started the company up, said they wanted to bring somebody on that could be a more senior person that could be responsible for Virginia and just Virginia. And that's why I came back on board, was just to be focused on working Virginia projects, with my main focus being this one in Albemarle. So this is kind of my primary focus. I've been doing VATI projects. Mike Culp and I did the very first one in 2016, 2017, whatever the first year was. We did the first VATI project, and I've done several with him and others along the way. So very, very familiar with the process and what needs to get done. So we actually have weekly calls with our contractors and our internal team, our construction team, to go over where we are on each of the individual tranches, how much fiber we've got buried, what equipment needs to still go in. And we get updates from the teams every week. We also have folks out in the field that are looking. I actually try to get out there myself at least every couple of weeks to take a look at what's going on. Jason, Mike and I were with DHCD a couple of weeks ago. We went out and did a site visit just to kind of look at things. And the good news is we are on track for getting construction done. Like anything else, we build in a little bit of a buffer ourselves, just because, we're at a time where, we all know we could get some snow or ice. So we know that there's those issues that come up, but we are very, very confident there aren't going to be any extensions. We've got the one extension and that's it. So we're real confident that we're going to be able to get everything done in time. Some of the harder places, that we've seen are in the Box Holly area. Those couple of roads just north off of Dick Woods, but and we've got a few of those. We know we've got a few of those in the if you're from along Stony Point, we know we've got some of those that are tough roads as well. So we're working really hard on those projects as well, but in good shape to get everything done on time as far as the construction phase goes. And we have separate crews that do construction from the crews that do drops. So we're not taking people that should be working on construction and having them do drops, so that, that way there's no contamination between the two. So construction is on track with a completely separate company than the company that's doing our drops.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rich. And just to reiterate, this is the construction phase, installation phase, down to the contractor. It's happening by different people, and a big part of that is just making sure that everybody can get that everybody's going to hit their milestones. So Brightspeed has milestones for how soon they want to get people connected, and I don't think Rich is going to be embarrassed if I say that it's because they don't get paid for you all being customers until they've actually gotten you connected. So they want to get that done, but they're also mindful of making sure that this construction gets completed on time. And so both efforts are happening in parallel. And we're hoping that by the time we get to March, there's going to be some by the time we get to next month's meeting, we're going to have a lot more progress that we can share, and we can give you guys greater detail about when we can expect some of the areas to be able to start placing orders. I see a lot of questions coming in. We're going to go ahead and tackle those once we get to the Q&A section, but I'm going to now kick it back to Rich and the team, so that way they can share a little bit more about the overall project, and then go over the ordering and installation process.
Thanks. And I'm going to pick up here. I'm going to move along kind of quickly because I think at this point it's probably best to hear from Nancy on the ordering process. But I just wanted to hit some of the key highlights for you again, because I saw the question now. But I think it fits in here. Are there goals for drops? So yes, yes and no is the answer. Yes, there are some goals. There actually is a requirement that we and the county work together over the next year to get to, I want to say, and I don't know the exact number, I've got it here somewhere, but it's about 800 locations. To get about 800 locations of the total number that are that could get available, get those connected up. Now, of course, we have no ability to force anyone to sign up for service, but I mean, we're going to do the best we can to get about 800 folks connected up to meet that goal. Of course, from Brightspeed's perspective, we'd like to have everybody connected up, but we're gonna be doing some marketing efforts on our own as well to get the word out to folks so that they can get connected up. So, but the flip side of that is there are no goals. There are no other contract requirements. The contract requirement is really about that backbone, getting that fiber out to the neighborhoods, but not actually to the homes, and getting the access points in place. And so that's kind of where the big focus is right now. Now, as you know, we're not going to, and I see some folks that I know that I've worked with, so I know you are connected to the fiber. So we're not waiting till March 31st to have all the construction done to start adding people on. We're doing that. We're doing that now, obviously. To the point that Jason made, for those of you that are that live along Stony Point and some of those neighborhoods, you're going to see. Heck, a month ago when I was out there, we were doing some boring. And so you'll see work that's happening out there. That's all that backbone that's going in right now. Once all that backbone is in and we get that area turned up, then we'll be making the announcements that the individual tranches are open for placing orders. When I first came on board, we were telling people, we were giving dates as when we thought things were going to be launched. And that was just a big mistake because we weren't making the dates. We were trying to be optimistic. We weren't making them. We'd get everything installed and then find out there was a bad piece of fiber that needed to be replaced, and we'd replace that, and then we'd have to go back and test it. So just to make it easier on you and us, you can see you can see the construction that's going on. And when you see that there's no more construction going on and things have been quiet for a while, that's probably we're going through the testing phases at that point, making sure all of our records are good. And then we will turn things up. And then I try to give the county as much notice as I possibly can so that they can get an email. I know that there are people that are anxiously sitting by their computer, literally waiting to hit the submit button on their order request. So we want to make sure that you've got a good heads up as to when that is happening, and you can get your order placed. Let's see, on the locations here, let's see, we have, and we need to update this one the next time. So Murray has gone from pending to completed so we move that over to the left-hand side. And those are the last project areas you see on the right that we're working on. Jason, you want to move off to the next slide? So this is kind of a more detailed, I'm not going to go through this with you. It's available if you want to go back and look at it, but this is kind of the process that's been going on in each of these areas, how we do things. We scope the project, that's all been done. Design, materials, permits, all that's been done. Easements done, material, site prep. And then that last section over here is the key piece. That's the placing, the splicing, and the turn up. And the other piece that needs to go on there is testing. So a lot of times I'll hear people say, well, nothing's going on out here. Well, I said, that's the testing phase. And if they find a problem, they got to go back and fix it. And of course, the last phase is, and this is all on the construction side, is property restoration. Now, it's different when we're doing drops. We also do property restoration, but there's property restoration that's done as well on the construction phase. You want to go to the next slide? Mm-hmm. All right, so this is a busy slide. Again, good one to go back to if you have individual questions, but this is kind of the process that we put in place, I think late October when I came on board to try and speed up the way that we do things. You go to the next page and then probably I can talk from here better. So the process here, again, some of this we've talked about, so I'll go quickly on it. On the top left corner there, once we've got the construction phase done, we update our systems that says, hey, this place is now available, it's launched, and people can place orders. Next block over is we notify Mike and Jason that we're ready to go. They get the word out to you. Then you're able to place the orders and get installs scheduled. Now, this is where I want to take a minute, because this is like the key point and a place where you probably need to know really what's going on. So our intent is to get you connected as quickly as we possibly can. So what that generally means for us is when you place your order, the tech is going to come out there and the tech is going to try to determine whether he can give you a temporary drop or not. The temporary drop is that line that is going to be above ground, that's going to be connected from our device, go through your yard, and then get connected to the side of your house, and it's going to be above ground. Now, we don't require temp. We're not going to force you to do a temp drop. If you say, I don't want a line sitting on my yard for a day, you can say, sorry, not interested. I want to wait until you can go ahead and put a buried line in the first place. Now, here's the problem with that. We are short crews to get those lines buried. We know we're short. The county knows we're short. Everybody knows we're short. And there is a shortage across the state of crews that can do that work. So we are looking at, our goal is to try and get those lines buried or get your buried drop in place 60 days out. So let me say that again, because I don't want there to be any confusion. We'd love to do them in 10 days. We'd love to do them in 30 days. But the reality is it's taken us 60 days and we're working. We've actually brought in additional crews from out of state to try to get caught up so that we can get into that groove of a 60-day burial of your line. So, and unfortunately, it's just, if you're in business, you know what's going on with workforce right now. And also across the state, there are similar projects like this going on. And so all the people that do that kind of work, the buried drop work, are being gobbled up to get those projects done. So we actually we had to go to Alabama and hire 2 crews from Alabama. They come up, they spend the week, we give them a day off, we put them up in a hotel, and those 2 crews are out there working on getting the oldest ones done first for us and trying to get us caught up. I apologize, and I say that again, I apologize that we're not able to get it done any faster than that, and I get that. There are some of you that do not want a drop sitting on your yard, and that's not a problem. All you have to do is tell the tech, not interested in a temp drop. I want to be a berry drop. Now, the flip side to that, the tech gets to your house and he says to you, sorry, we can't do a temp drop. And you're like, what do you mean you can't do a temp drop? I'm okay with a temp drop. Well, the tech is going to look and he's going to know, for instance, if that line of yours has to cross over your neighbor's yard to get to yours, we can't leave that line on your neighbor's yard for 60 days to be able to get connected to you without getting the permission of your neighbor. And we're not going to go try to knock on his door and ask. I mean, I suppose if you check with the neighbor and you got something from the neighbor saying, go ahead, not a problem. But generally, we're not going to do it on the neighbor's yard. Little tougher when you're talking about roadways, like a driveway. So this is where you need, and the tech will, you'll be there with the tech. You need to communicate to the tech, hey, I really, really, really want the temp. I'm willing to take a chance and maybe that thing will get cut. I'll have to come in, you put a new one in. It's not going to cost you anything, but we'd have to come in and replace it. There are some instances where the tech is going to look and say, look, the gravel on that road, I've done these 10 times before, and I've seen that line isn't going to last 2 days before it's going to get cut. We cannot do a temp drop for you. All right. There are going to be other times when he's going to look, and it's going to depend on the tech. He's going to say, I think we can do it. There's a chance it's going to get cut. You know, what are you comfortable with? And then the ball's in your court, unless the tech says absolutely not. The techs want to give you service that day, if at all possible. When they do that, they're going to come in and they're going to do the install. They are going to get everything set up for you. And before they leave your house, in 99.9% of the time, they're going to be able to say, you're good to go. They're going to run a speed test and they're going to show you what the results are of that speed test to show you you're at, somewhere just shy of 940 meg that's going to be going over that network. So they'll do that test for you. I was on an install a couple of weeks ago. That's exactly what they did. They pulled up the device, showed the customer, here's what your speed is, both up and down. Okay. So again, that's the temp lines. Now, if you get a temp line, it's going to take us some time to come back and bury it. In most cases, you will not need to be there. We know, you and the tech have kind of looked where the temp is. In most cases, there are going to be some exceptions, but in most cases, that temp has a location that we all know, okay, all we need to do is come in and bury it. And we'll bring a piece of equipment in that will dig a trench, goes maybe 6 inches into the ground, just cuts a slice open. That same wire, in most cases, is able to be dropped down into that trench, sealed up, and then you won't even notice that it's there after that. Now, there are exceptions, and I always get these questions. Well, I know that they weren't able to for whatever reason. Yeah, there are going to be some of those cases that happen where we can't place it where the temp is, and we'll deal with those as we get to them. But in most cases, that's the way it should work. If unfortunately if you decide or we can't get the temp line to you, then we'll have to schedule the buried drop for you. Again, it's going to take 60 days to get those drops done until we can get caught up with all the work we're doing and get ahead of the game to get that buried drop in. Then the same thing happens. Tech comes out, they bury the line in, get everything set up, and then you're good to go. You're good to go from there. So as you look down there on the now looking down at the blue section down below, that second one in, VA811 locates. I want to talk about this for a minute because it's a key point for a lot of you folks, because you have private facilities a lot of the times out there that need to be protected. So what happens is when we're doing a lot of this work, we and anybody that's doing excavation. So if you're doing, building a new driveway to your home, your excavator is required to call VA811. VA811 knows, because they've got maps, they know who's out there. And they call those companies and they say, hey, we've got work that's happening. You need to get a locator out there to locate your facilities, and you got 3 days to do it. So that's the other thing is, everybody's got 3 days to respond. They can respond more quickly. They'll come out and they'll either say, nope, we haven't got any facilities there, go ahead. And they do this all electronically. Or they'll say, we've got facilities there, and then they'll send somebody out and to mark. And so you see different paint colors depending on what facilities are there. So if you've got private facilities, you've got a dog fence, you've got a water, you got a well, and you've got a water line. We don't locate those. There's nobody that comes out and locates those. So we really need you all to locate those facilities, get those facilities located. When you see our paint go on the ground, maybe electric, you see somebody, that's kind of your clue that we're getting really close to coming and dropping, and it's time to get your utilities located. My suggestion would be is as soon as you place your order and you know that you've got a drop coming, maybe go ahead and call in to locate and ask them to put flags up. I mean, flags are really easy to do. A lot of the locators will do that for you. I don't think it costs you any more, and it's going to be a lot more resilient than having paint on the ground, especially as we get snow and things like that happening. And then, Jason, I'll let you talk for a second about what you guys are doing to help coordinate that effort to help out some of these locations.
Absolutely, and I'll cover a couple of things because I know we've had some questions about it. What we've had success with is working with communities who will work together. And so if you've got a HOA, it makes it a little bit easier. You can talk to your HOA. And if you don't have a HOA, just talk to your neighbors and see if you can get together to work on this. But if I called a private utility locate to just come and mark some things in my backyard, it's likely that they're going to, one, charge me by the hour. But two, they're not going to charge me for an hour. They're going to charge me for 2 hours. And that's kind of the, if you've ever dealt with a contractor, a plumber, that, they're going to charge you for 2 hours worth of work, even if they're there for 15 minutes, because that's the cost of rolling the truck out. And so they're going to give you a minimum amount of time that you have to have them out there. But if you work with your neighbors, if you work with your HOA, you can ask for a comprehensive contract. And what that means is, instead of asking for them to come out and just bill you for the work that they're going to do on your property, you can actually ask them to come and put together a contract that's going to be good for the entire community. And I'll mention this, one of the things that Rich's team is doing is that they're working to do those berries as a community. It doesn't make sense to have a crew pick up from Tillman Road, go all the way out to Stony Point, and then the next day go all the way out to Taylor's Gap. They can work in one community to knock out several places at a time, and the locate companies can also coordinate with the contractors to make sure that they're going to be marking and they're going to be in the area at about the same time that everybody else is going to be doing the digging. And so all of that can be coordinated. But it requires some coordination on your all's part. So if you have a HOA, if you have some neighbors that want to work together on this, the outcome is better coordination, and you get billed for the time that they're actually going to be on your property doing the locates. And the way that works is that the invoice that gets sent to the HOA is going to break down: we were at this location at this address for 20 minutes. We were at this other address for an hour. We were at this other address for 45 minutes. Now, the other thing I wanted to touch on is that temporary line. So we do, Brightspeed wants you there, and you really do need to be there for that initial installation process. So we're going to go over the ordering in a second, but you place your order, and then you pick an installation date, and you should be there for that. And if you've heard horror stories about people just not showing up for the installation, and I will tell you, that was a problem. We have not heard a single complaint about that in a long time. And so it's really encouraging to see that kind of change. That's the change that has really come since October, when Brightspeed took over and when Rich came on to really give a lot of hands-on time. So those that opportunity that you have there of having the tech with you while you're there, they're going to talk about where they think the route needs to be. The tech's going to have an idea of it's going to be coming from this direction, and it's going to go up here and over there, and it's going to come in on this side of your house. If there's a specific reason where why you need it to go somewhere else, you can talk to the tech. And some of that might be, well, we actually built a greenhouse over top of where you want to put it, and so it's going to have to go somewhere else. So you can talk to the tech. Well, we've got a bunch of private utilities. Our well line goes right through there. And so you can work with the tech to figure out the route that is going to be appropriate. Now, there are going to be some times where the temp line route, and Rich mentioned this, the temp line route isn't going to be the ultimate route. And that might be something that it's a compromise to make sure that you're connected today. But again, that's all stuff that you can talk about with the tech before they leave. And so one of the benefits of that is if you know what the route is going to be that it's going to take, if you know it's just going to follow that temp line, you can tell your contractor, your locate contractor, you don't need to mark all 6 acres of my property. You don't need to mark the entire length of my dog fence. You can just mark everything that's along this path. So that way, anything that's under the ground along the path of your temp line or along the path of where the fiber is going to be coming through, you can have that marked and not the rest of your property. So again, there's lots of opportunities to have better coordination and good outcomes with just a little bit of working together, and then making sure that you're working with those techs. We saw that question. I'm going to answer it live too. Where to go? The question was, don't the private facilities need to be located before the temporary drop to determine the best route? If you want to order a locate right now, if you want to, you just want to, hedge your bets before you've even placed your order, you just want to go ahead and have a locate done with flags, with flags, then you can do that. And that's
one quick thing on that. Even if the private locate won't put the flags in, you can always go back over their paint and put your own flags in. They're not very expensive to get the small metal.
Maybe your hoe can buy it. But you can do that now if you want to. But you'll probably be working against the coordination efforts that's probably going to be happening in your community. And time can often be a confound in this. So if you have the team come out and mark your property, or mark where you think some of your utilities are going to be, or mark where you think the temporary line is going to go, and then it turns out the temporary line is going to be coming in a completely different direction. We'll be honest, there are times when you think it's going to be coming from the street, it's actually coming from one neighborhood over, and it's going to come through your backyard. And so you might think, well, I marked where I think that the temp line is going to go. It could be coming from a completely different direction. So our recommendation is you shouldn't mark anything until your installation appointment. Now, if you have absolutely no familiarity with where your private utilities are, then that's something to just be aware of and to take a look at. So if you've never had any work done and you don't know where your water line is, you don't know where your propane tank line is, then it might be worth investigating before, so that way you can let the tech know. But even so, if on the day that the tech comes out and you don't know where your stuff is, but you guys figure out what the route's going to be, and then you have your utilities marked, the fact that you've at least gotten the utilities marked along that path at that stage, it'll give them the information that they need to accommodate. Now, I'm not going to venture to guess what the accommodation is going to be, but if it turns out you guys picked the absolute worst possible route, and it's going to pass through your propane line, your water line, your lighting line, it's going to pass through all of that, then there might be a solution that they can just do that day. There might be a different solution that they need to talk about, but either way, that's something that they can work with you on that tech visit day. And that's the drops buried. Now, Rich has got one box here that's property restoration, and I want to point out there are 2 phases for property restoration. The first phase for property restoration is what we talked about earlier. During the construction phase, if they're doing work and it impacts your property, it could be something as simple as, on a muddy day, a truck turned around and left a big rut in the culvert next to your house, or it could be that, like over on Box Holly, they had pickaxes and shovels, and they were literally just hand digging a path for this conduit, for this fiber. And there was a lot of work that needed to be done to restore the side of the road. Whatever it is, if it's construction related, it's going to be completed after construction, or if there's any sort of problem, some erosion issues, rains causing something to collapse, give us an email, baao@albemarle.org. The team at Brightspeed is ready to have their contractors go and fix emergencies, fix problems that are really serious right away. Typically, construction phase restoration, it happens after construction and the area is completed. However, there's also property restoration associated with your installation. And again, this is where if you've got a really easy install, you're close to the road, the fiber's right in front of your house, it's just going to get pulled right over to you. The equipment that they can use should leave almost no trace. But if it doesn't, if that's not the equipment that they can use, if it's going to be a more involved installation, again, the crew is going to work with you to make sure that this gets resolved properly. For those installation related issues, contact Brightspeed first. So if the installer came by and that they stepped on your flower bed and now there's damage to your property, contact them first. They have a process for making sure that customers are needs are satisfied. And then if you don't get a resolution from them after an installation related property issue, reach out to us and we can help mediate that. Okay. Rich, do you want to push on and then we can have Nancy go over?
Yeah,
things?
let's see. That maybe if I go to the next page, let's see here. Yeah, I think we're ready. I think I've covered everything, everything I wanted to cover. So we'll turn it over to Nancy. She's going to take everybody kind of through the ordering phase so that you have a better clue as to how that works. Again, I'm gonna apologize for her. That we're in the transit, we're still in the transition period from CenturyLink over to Brightspeed. And boy, I'm looking forward to it being a year from now when we don't have to talk about this. But we're still doing we've got 2 systems that we're operating, and we're moving things over as quickly as we can to the Brightspeed system. One example of that is if you are a fiber customer and you call in now and the number you're calling from is associated with your account, it'll say, we recognize you as a fiber customer, and it'll get you to the right place for work on that. So a lot of these things are just going to take us some time. Again, I apologize for that, but it's going to take us some time to iron out these the transition over from CenturyLink to Brightspeed. And for those of you who don't know, the move to Brightspeed wasn't just a rebranding of CenturyLink. If you lived through some of the other name changes in the past, it's been a change in name, but everything else stayed the same. This is an entirely new company that was built and took on the assets in Virginia of CenturyLink. We're going to be moving to our own systems, everything, but there is a transition time where we're still having to use a lot of the CenturyLink information to get everybody moved over and get things running correctly. Nancy?
Sure. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Nancy, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about what is fiber and why is the fiber internet that we're talking about so important. So fiber optic internet, uses light. It pulses through special glass cables to move information at nearly the speed of light. It's an ultra fast broadband connection with enough speed to handle all of your devices simultaneously or power your small business software. Today, most of us have a lot of connected devices. So if you think about it, you have your phones, your tablets, laptops, gaming devices, smart TVs, even your refrigerators now can be connected to the internet. So Brightspeed Fiber Internet allows you to connect all of those devices. So you can play the games, stream shows, chat online. Our services offer no data caps, contracts, or bundles. So fiber provides this reliable, scalable internet connection. And Brightspeed Fiber offers a fully digital online experience. You'll place your order online. There's no need to call an 800 number. You can simply go to q.brightspeed.com. When installing the fiber optic cables to your home in the Grant area, as you know, we're rolling out the internet in a phased rollout. So not all households have turned up at the same time, which you now know, and you'll be notified when your home is ready to order the internet. Now, you can go to brightspeed.com, and if you notice that very top bar on the screen, in the white writing, it says, you can click here if you're Brightspeed, if you're Quantum Fiber or CenturyLink. You can go that route, or the fastest way is to just use the URL www.q.brightspeed.com. That way you don't have to go through as many screens, but either way will get you there. So the next screen, can you move forward? So when you get in here, this is the first screen that you should see. Here's where you're going to enter your address. So you enter your address, and if you are a current customer of formerly CenturyLink, now Brightspeed, you're going to click the little dot, radio dot there that says, yes, you are a current customer. So put your address in, select that little yes, and then select check availability. And the next screen that you're going to see is your speed options. So here, at this time, we have two speeds that we offer, 200 meg and 940. So you select the 940 meg and then hit continue. The next page is about the modem. We have a modem now that is no charge. So you could select the modem that says 0. It's a $200 value, and you'll click continue there. So it's pretty simple to get in here. If this is where your order will, or your offer will come up with the installation date and time. The first available date and time will come in. You can change that if you'd like. So if you click on the little calendar next to the date and time, you can change that to a date that better suits you. Also at this time, you'll enter your email address. Sorry, my screen's disappeared here, just a second. You can go ahead and enter the other information. You'll also review the subscriber agreement. So at the very bottom under the big square, you'll see that little box that says you can click on it to actually review it, or you can just check that you've read it and then you'll click continue. On the next slide, this is where you have an opportunity to actually review your order. So kind of on the left side there, it covers again your installation date and time. Also, your address will show up just to confirm we're at the right address. You can also, with those little radio buttons underneath those square boxes, are some additional information that you can review. And then again, at the top, it's just an opportunity to review what you're ordering and what your monthly service is. At any time, as you're in the order flow, you can select that little box down there to the bottom right that says support, Brightspeed support, and that will give you and get you into a chat situation with our agents. So if you're having any problems, if you have any questions, just anytime when you're in that website, actually anywhere on our website, you can click and chat with an agent. So on the next slide is where you actually enter your payment information.
Nancy, sorry, 1 second. I wanted to, and this touches on a question that we've got.
Okay.
So when we look at this slide right here, this part right here that I'm circling now, due today, this is your first month. This is your first month
Yes.
of service. So that's going to be due when you are doing the installation. So when Nancy in a second tells you about your payment information and how you're going to input that, that's what you're paying in the next slide. You'll pay that. There's a second box, and that's right below, and it tells you what your monthly cost is going to be, and it says due monthly, and your monthly payment will be automatically deducted going forward beginning your second month. And there should be a little asterisk there where it's the second month of service. So if you've placed your order, but you've elected not to have a temporary line, and so on your installation date, they're not going to connect you that day. They're going to come, they're going to tell you where it's going to be, they're going to talk to you about what that process is going to look like, and then in 60 days or so, you'll have your fiber drop. That's when your first month starts. So your first month doesn't start until you're online. After that, so 2 months, so second month of service, that's when you're going to be billed. So if you placed your order and you're having any sort of delay, and you don't have service yet, you shouldn't be billed monthly until you have service. Now, if you have an issue where you're getting billed and you don't have service, absolutely reach out to Brightspeed, reach out to us. We'll make sure that this gets taken care of. However, you shouldn't be seeing a monthly bill until service is actually started. I'm sorry about that, Nancy.
Correct. That's okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, so the next screen, after you review your order and you hit continue, the next screen you're going to get is the payment information. The Brightspeed Fiber is a prepay and online. So you've entered your email address. That's how you're going to get notifications from us, is through your email. Here is another opportunity, though, to review your order on this screen. So your order summary is there on the left, again, reviewing what's due today, what's due monthly, when your next payment would be, as well as your address is, again, just to confirm again that we're at the right address. And then you'll select the payment information at the bottom of that screen and enter in your credit card information. On the next page, you get the final review, actually, and this is where you actually enter your credit card information. And one more time, it's a chance to look at the order summary, enter your credit card information, and then you'll hit the submit button. You will get a confirmation email from us saying that we've received your order at the email address that you've entered. If you don't get that or you have any questions, certainly let us know. We do have an 800 number that you can call if you have questions. But for the ordering process, you will continue to, the easiest way to do it is to go online and do it. As I think Rich talked about this earlier, that the installers will speed test your internet when they're at your home. So they'll show you what the speed test is. And I can't read the other page. Let me see it.
While she's doing that, I want to point out to everyone that the number up there, especially for the tranches that are currently under construction, you may end up with a customer service rep who might not know about our project. So just be patient, and at some point during this process, calls to that particular number will be answered by someone who is aware of the project. Rich, correct me if I'm wrong about that, but I just want to put that out as a potential problem you may experience with using that 800 number.
Yeah, and Rich's team has preloaded. So if you're already a CenturyLink customer, I'm sorry, a Brightspeed customer, it's 15 months and I still can't get it right. If you're already a Brightspeed customer, if you're calling from the number that is registered to your account, it will automatically recognize that, and it will actually route you. And this is what Rich mentioned. It'll automatically route you to what's known as the Fiber Success team. So, so if you're calling from the number that's registered, you will get the right person. If you don't, bear with them as they look to see what the solution is. And if you still have trouble, as always, reach out to us, bao@albemarle.org, and we'll make sure the right people have your information.
And one tip I can give you is if you get that number and because you're calling from your cell phone and they don't recognize you, you can ask for the Fiber Success team, ask to be connected to the Fiber Success team, and they have much better records. So they should be able to find your address, recognize that your address is fiber enabled. So that's in case you're calling from like a cell phone or somebody else's home. Again, I just remind you that if anytime you're on our website, you need assistance, there's a chat button. Also, there's other available information on the website. Not only, of course, as we said, our technician will speed test your equipment before they leave your home. But if you have other questions or other problems, there is a troubleshooting assistance on our website also, where, as you can see, it says, "Why is my internet slow?" If you click on that URL, you'll get additional assistance that you can kind of walk through. It's kind of a self-service.
And all of these slides are going to be available on the website, and we will send an email with that information and those links. So if you want to click on that link anytime, it'll be in the slide, but you can also find that on Brightspeed's website under their troubleshooting. I'm going to stop the share now. And we're going to dive into our questions. And I've actually got Ms. Thomas' question already pulled up, and we've already answered those who have launched and placed orders for service. Again, you're not going to be billed until you actually have service enabled. So once you're active, then you're going to see bills. Now, if you're seeing bills and you don't have service, that's obviously an issue. Reach out to Brightspeed, reach out to us. The next question is associated with, actually, I'm going to drop to the bottom one first. Most of my neighbors that still have DSL service have no connection at all. Should they email BAAO? Obviously, these are ongoing issues. Our recommendation, reach out to Brightspeed. And in particular, what you're looking for, if you've tried to get some improvement to your service, if you're having a service issue and you don't feel like it's being resolved, get them to give you a trouble ticket. Once you have a trouble ticket, and it might be, I'm not gonna lie, it might be a little cajoling to get somebody to just offer you that trouble ticket. Once you've got one, and you're not satisfied, email us, and we can reach out to Brightspeed and work with them to get you a prompt resolution to your issue. We want people, even if the service is going to be replaced by fiber soon, we still want people to be connected. And to the other question, will you continue to service DSL customers? One of our neighbors wants to stay with DSL rather than transitioning to fiber. I will just, the two big things that we'll offer, in terms of encouraging people to go ahead and get connected now. And so feel free to let your neighbors know if you know somebody that doesn't plan on upgrading now. There are three factors that we really value with fiber. One is that even if you don't want it today, maybe it's not something that you're interested in right now, getting it connected now, getting it connected under these terms, that it's going to be done, that it's going to be what it's going to be, which in this case, it's $65. It's that first month of request. And then it's done. And so you don't have to worry about whether or not it's going to go away at some point. It's done. But the second thing I want to emphasize is when you want to, if you want to sell your house, you're going to want to get it connected to that resource that's available, so as to increase the appeal to your property. So if that's not compelling to you, the last thing that I'll offer is that the capabilities that you get, the experience that you get, the biggest benefit, and I tell people, don't worry about speed tests, don't worry about making sure that you're getting the full 940 megs. The experience is just the experience of knowing that there's never going to be a website where when you pull it up, it takes so long to load that everything bonks out, and then the website tells you have to log in and start back over again. It's the feeling of knowing that, like, if there's a TV show you really wanted to watch, you don't have to worry about whether or not it's cloudy in San Diego, and so for whatever reason your internet connection isn't going to work properly and you're not going to be able to watch the TV show you wanted to watch. It's reliable, and so we encourage people to go ahead and get connected, even if it's maybe not something that they're going to hold on to. And I'll let Rich, you answer the question of, are you guys going to continue to service DSL customers?
Yes, well, there's no plan to shut off DSL service. Now, we're not going to be doing any upgrades on it. So as the demands on the network become more and more, here's another thing that could happen to you as a DSL customer, as I just thinking out loud here, because I think we've had this happen a couple of times. You sell your house and you say, well, I don't have fiber connected, but I got DSL. But you find out that the next homeowner that's going to come in there wants to order service, and they're told, sorry, we don't have anything available. And you say, wait a minute, I had DSL at my house. What do you mean the new person coming in? So a lot of times what's happening there is, if we're oversubscribed in an area and the bandwidth used to just become so great, we sometimes will tell people that once they move out, we won't replace that. We won't let another customer come in on that same account because the bandwidth is so limited. So that's another thing to think about. Just just because you have it there now doesn't mean somebody else would be able to have it going forward. And the other thing I'll say is we try to build into the network enough locations in the devices that are out in your neighborhood. But, you know, if you reach a point where there's a big neighborhood that gets built in there and we wind up using all the fiber that comes out there, the connections that we can make, now all of a sudden you might be 2 years from now and there's no, we call them ports. There's no ports available and you can't connect. And then the other thing I don't know about is right now, we're connecting anything up to, I think, 650 feet for free. That's not our normal plan. Our normal plan is we'll cover a certain amount of cost, not distance. So that's the other thing. If you've got a particularly difficult install, maybe you got to bore under a couple of driveways, that's going to cost a lot of money to get done later on. Whereas today, we're the ones that are eating all of that cost that takes you way above what the cost would be to normally install. And so the other thing, and the last thing I'll tell you is take a look at the pricing, because, you know, if the pricing was 5 times what you're paying for DSL, you might be, you know, that might be enough to stop you. But I think the pricing is pretty darn good to get you the latest, greatest stuff that's out there. So anyway, just my thoughts.
Yeah. And the next thing, they're the last 3 questions that we've got on here, and thank you to everybody that's asked a question. Take a peek to see if your question was answered. If you have follow-ups, go ahead and throw them in. We've got questions regarding your old service. So a lot of customers that had DSL that are a CenturyLink. If you have old service, I should have left it up now. Come all the way back to that first slide. And put the share back up. If you have service and you are ordering fiber service and you click that box that says, are you a current Brightspeed customer with service at that address, and you click yes. The way that it's supposed to work is that they're going to transition you over. Unless you specifically, and to tell you the truth, we're not sure how it works, but unless you're specifically interested in holding on to and paying for both your DSL and your Brightspeed service, it should just ultimately transition you. And so when your installation is completed, your DSL service should stop, and then you'll just have the one. That's what should happen. If that hasn't happened, if you've already been connected and you've still got this DSL modem in your house and you've still got a DSL network operating and you don't want it, and then obviously that's something that you want to see addressed. Again, reach out to Brightspeed first. If they can't, if you're not satisfied after you try to reach out to them and get to a resolution, reach out to us, bao@albemarle.org. And we'll help you guys reach a positive resolution. But the key is that checkbox right there. That checkbox tells the Fiber Success team when they're working your order to go ahead and start the transition process on your DSL account. And so if that's a concern of yours, go ahead and make sure that when you're placing your order, click that box. And if you already placed your order, and you're worried that you're going to end up paying for DSL and fiber at the same time, reach out to us, reach out to Brightspeed, and we'll make sure that you end up, that you are where you need to be. So with that, we are at 1 o'clock, a little past. We've got lots of great questions. Again, we'll post these slides. Oh, here we go. Rich, do you want to handle this one? So this is from Mr. Evans, and this is related to a question regarding some issues that they've had with telephone lines getting marked.
Yeah, the legacy copper issue.
Okay, yeah. No. So are you saying it should be? Oh, so the question was a marking of facilities. Yeah. So wait, how to make a long answer short. The facilities that get marked when you call in a VA811 ticket are mostly those backbone services. The law specifically exempts out service drops. So some places I know Dominion will mark the service drops, other places they don't. My experience here, I live in Western Henrico, they don't. But I think maybe they are doing that in your area, but you don't have to mark you don't, the things you have to mark are the things that are privately yours, you know, your water line, those kinds of things. If we wind up cutting our own facilities, then we'll fix them, you know, so that's kind of the way that should work, or will work.
And then one about the fence that was getting put in, and statements that there was no tracer. And I meant to cover this briefly. So that when we talk about that temp line that's going out, you know, people are worried about them being a little fragile, and your tech might really warn you against being tough on that line. It's not like it's just a little tiny piece of glass that's just laying out on your yard. It is a piece of glass inside a cable, inside of a protective cabling, and then sheathed. So it's actually inside of another kind of hefty piece of protective tubing that's designed to take a little bit of a beating, both because when they're actually pushing it into the ground, you know, it's a big piece of metal that's basically just shoving it into the ground, but also because they recognize, you know, these things might be sitting on the ground for 60 days or more. Now, again, it's going to take a beating. That doesn't mean that it isn't, you know, foolproof and that it'll last forever. We do want to get them buried. We do want to see them get buried as soon as possible. And we do prefer that they not end up over top of some fencing. Now, Rich, do you mind addressing whether there's tracers in them? My understanding is typically they should have a little cabling inside.
Yeah, I don't think I'll have to check on that one and get the answer. I really don't know the answer to that, but I mean, we there are a handful of companies in the world that make that make those drops, but I can check on that. My immediate thought is that those drops are not in the 811 system anyway. So you know, when somebody comes out there, they're probably going to know that there's they're going to see the copper box there. If somebody that's doing excavating sees obvious evidence, then they have to call that in. But again, I'm just thinking out loud here, because those lines are not going to be in the VA811 system maps. So there wouldn't be anybody that would mark those things. But I'll check. And Ms. Bowen, I know I think you've been on a number of these. We can get the word back and we can share that on the next webinar as well. But it's a good question.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all so much. This has been a great webinar. I hope that we've gotten the opportunity to answer everybody's questions. If you still have a question, BAAO@albemarle.org. It's the last time I'm going to say it. But thank you all so much. And thank you to Nancy and Rich and Mike and all 36 of you all that attended. So the last ask that I'll make, we're coming to the end of this project. Again, installations can keep happening for a very long time, but if you're at a you know, winter get together in your neighborhood, if you're already out for a walk and you want to just give us a help, talk to your neighbors about this project. Make sure that all of your neighbors everybody in your neighborhood knows about this project. Have them reach out to us, BAAO@albemarle.org. I added one more to make sure that they have the information that they need. And you all have a great weekend. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.